get loud. Let's get loud, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Get Loud. We're having another presentation on bullying. And with us this evening is our guest, of course, Tamara. Hi, Tamara.
Hi, glad to be back again.
Good to have you. It's good to see you. And this evening, of course, we will be diving more into Tamara's family background. Tamara is one of five and one of one. Can you guess? Yes. Tamara dad has five girls, but her mom only has Tamara. So Tamara, your grandmother, the matriarch of the family, celebrated her 80th birthday on the 15th. How was that?
It was special because of technology, we could all be around and stuff and share videos with those who couldn't be there physically in Jamaica. So it was really nice to just see the ones that were there that could celebrate with her, and then the rest of us that were not, that could still celebrate and call in and stuff there. So
That's
it was
great. A happy birthday, Grandma!
80 strong, 80 strong.
All right, 80 strong indeed. So Tamara, one of five, one of one. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that affected you in terms of fostering relationships and just fitting in into an older family? I too am from an older family, so I'm the fifth of five, right? But my brothers and sister, they were all older than me. So tell me about you and how you fit in.
So on my mom's side, like, I'm the only one. On my dad, I'm the last of five.
Okay.
And there's
Welcome to the five.
So on that side, I'm the last of five. And there's, like, when I was born, my sisters were teenagers. So or the youngest one to me was a teenager. So it's not that much of a gap. And it was kind of cool being the youngest one and my sisters kind of being like a little bit mature because they could help my mom and my dad with me and stuff. When I was born, one of my eldest sister actually was here and came on and helped to grow me until I was ready to go to preschool, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, and because my dad is Haitian, my mom is Jamaican, I actually, because my sisters speak fluent Haitian Creole, it was kind of cool to be around that at home and then be around the patois as well. So I kind of got the best of both worlds in that sense.
So tell us, did you have a hard time fitting in? It didn't really sound like you had a hard time fitting into your family, your four sisters. But tell us a little bit more about that, because I know a lot of people have problems and they come across bullying in terms of family situations like those.
Yeah, I think for me, it wasn't voluntary, like bullying in a sense. Because I was the youngest and I really didn't know all of the backstory of stuff that happened in the family or whatever, until I was of age. So when I was a kid, I was always told, everybody loves me. The unit, the family unit, why it be mixed, we all love each other. There's a mutual respect for everybody. But as most people know, mixed families, it doesn't really, there's always like a hidden story under the surface, especially as like the younger one. I think I don't know if other people are in my situation, being the youngest in a group of a mixed family, but you kind of don't know what's going on because it's not told to you, and you're kind of shielded from it. So growing up, I didn't think, I thought everybody just came together and was one big happy family, which that's not the case. I think every time when you're joining a blended family, there's gonna be some issues, because either, like in my mom and my dad's case, my mom became the new stepmom, because my sisters and I, my dad had three previous relationships.
Okay.
So I had to deal with the fact that I had stepmoms even before I was born, but my sisters already dealt with the stepmom things. They're like, oh, here's this again, kind of thing. So it was like, accepting that. I think my sisters dealt with it very maturely at their age, because some of them have dealt with it before. And some people probably would have rebelled against it, and two, like they would have hung it over my head my entire life, but they instead like they more motivated me to not, have that deter or that, mess with their relationship with me. And although there was an age gap, as I got older, especially like even when I was in college, I got closer with my sisters, um to the point where I spent like I didn't get to, but I got to spend like Thanksgiving with one of my sisters that I'm close with.
Okay.
One of my other sisters is teaching me Creole, but it wasn't always like that, um because I always felt like there was a gap between like communication, and I wouldn't say it was a negative thing, but it was like a gray area.
How
um
how 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 so? Can you just describe that for us?
I think in some families, or in my situation, because I didn't know like the whole story about certain things,
Mm-hmm.
there were things that if it was a trigger word, I didn't really know, like I didn't really know if it affected somebody or not in that sense.
So
um
can you give us an example of maybe a trigger word that you weren't aware of at that time, but then you became aware of as you got older?
like the word outsider. Anytime when I would say that I feel like an outsider, somebody would be like, "Oh no, you're not. Like, you don't know how blessed you are to be in this family, and blah blah blah." Like, XYZ. But growing up, I felt sometimes, maybe my sisters felt like they were the outsiders at some point in time. So I just learned not to use that word, or like black,
Mm.
or like black lamb or whatever kind of thing, like not to use those words in like a comical sense, even though like I felt like, oh, because I'm the youngest, I felt like the outsider because I never got to grow up with everybody around kind of thing.
Mm. Okay.
um so in that form, I also feel like when I was growing up, being in a blended family,
Mm-hmm.
um sometimes I felt like I was more, oh goodness, what is the word, like I had, like I got more out of my father than my sisters did, because
Okay. Okay.
my my father was, he always says that he was always around more, and
Mm.
it's not because he didn't love my sisters, it was because he was always away working overseas.
Okay.
To
So where were they born? In Haiti?
So two of them were born in Haiti, and then that's a lie. Take it back. They were all born in the Bahamas,
Okay.
but raised in Haiti. Um, some of them. So my dad worked in the Bahamas before he came to Cayman, and
Okay.
just because he wasn't around a lot because he was working a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really like the father to be there to like, oh, pick them up from school every day like how I was, or like
Okay.
if I needed help with a project and he was around,
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So in that sense, they never really had like the nuclear family experience of me, mom, and dad.
Okay. You mentioned that they had the experience of stepmom, so I'm taking it that these four girls were not the same mother, right?
No, only two of us had the same mom.
Only.
So the rest of us had to do with the whole stepmom. But for me,
Mhm.
also, because I know my sister's moms, but
Okay.
I but it's more like in the sense of biologically, those are my sister's moms. I never really had like a close knit relationship with them until I got
Mhm.
older.
Okay.
But they all knew of each other on another level, if that made sense. So that's why I always felt like an outsider when I was growing.
Ah.
I always felt like an outsider growing up, but most people here in Cayman would only know like, oh, I'll be my mom's only child,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of does put another level of it as, oh, like I'm used to being alone, but then I'm also feeling like an outsider because there's such a gap.
Right.
I was growing up, it was kind of hard for me to kind of have a relationship with females because I never really had that from my own sisters. So how can I go and have that with other people that are not related to me?
When
It
you
was
say you didn't have the relationship, can you just describe what you had then?
I think for me, my friendships were based on like similarities.
Mm.
Um, like for example, my sisters, it was based off the fact that we all had the same dad, and that's where it
Okay.
started.
Okay.
But there wasn't, we didn't when I was growing up, we didn't know each other, but there was like this unspoken like loyalty, if that made sense.
Yes, that makes
So
sense.
when I was going to school and I was, dealing with the bullying at school, and I did have female friends, but it was kind of hard to maintain that kind of friendship because you would have thought I would have got that from my sisters,
Right.
um, but I didn't. And so, because also being an only child, I had to learn to like kind of put myself out there. So I never really dealing with that kind of like unspoken kind of like rift, which
Mm.
it wasn't really a it wasn't really an issue until I got older and I understood like, okay, there are certain things that happened, why people feel a certain way, why we're not as close as we thought we would be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when I was getting older, it was kind of hard for me to communicate to women that I had like an issue because I
Mm.
always was stepping on eggshells with even communicating with the women that were in my life.
Oh, wow. So did that affect your relationship with your mom or just other women?
I think with my mom, it was like growing up, to be completely honest, we didn't really have the best communication skills. Even though I was an only child, but because I was so used to being around her all the time, we basically became, I wouldn't say the same person, but our communication style was like, well, I know what's best for me, if that makes sense. As
Okay.
a child, some people, so as a kid, you're like, you want it your way, but then you're not, because I never had that experience of seeing like my sibling get told no. So I'm like, all right, cool, I can get away with this. So,
Oh,
or something like that. You know what I mean? So like, or if I ask my mom if I want to do something, then she might say yes. She doesn't want to like, but I noticed that a lot of times because my mom grew up and my dad grew up in um mixed households, they
right.
got used to it, and all of their siblings are closer in age as well.
Okay.
So they got used to the whole aspect of we have to share, blah blah blah. For me, I never really had to,
Mm-hmm.
so my communication skill with my mom wasn't really like something that they were used to growing up either. So we kind of butt heads when it came to things. Um, but I saw what she was I see and I saw what she meant or what she means.
Right.
Um, and so over time, when I did get older and I started to communicate with my sisters more, ironically, it helped me to communicate with my mom more.
Oh,
Um, so, because I got to learn to like communicate with older women better and understand their life experiences, and because their life experiences were similar, but they're not the same to mine, and I had to
mm-hmm.
respect that.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I was younger, that's why I felt so isolated because I didn't really understand what was going on.
So
Now I
how did
could
that isolation affect you in terms of how did you as a young adult or not even a young adult, but a teenager or even pre-teenager, how did it affect you? How did you feel?
sometimes I kind of felt like I couldn't talk to females because I had to watch what I was saying. I
Okay,
didn't
when
want
you say watch what you were saying, are you like referencing like the outsider word or what can you just
like because I didn't really know their life experiences, and
mm,
because I was bullied, and sometimes the females in my life, like even my sisters, they knew that I was getting talked at and stuff, but
okay,
they weren't really physically there to help me, so it was kind of like they wish they could be there but they couldn't, kind of thing.
okay.
Help me navigate through that, and that's also something that made me feel a little bit outside because
Hmm.
I had friends that had their siblings, and even though like their siblings would be around and whatever, mine couldn't be physically.
So they
So
weren't living in the Cayman Islands.
not when I was going to
Okay,
school. They were overseas. So
okay,
that was another barrier as well where they had their lives going on and I didn't. That's where the next thing comes in. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to like because they had to raise their kids and all that kind of stuff. So um I just felt like there was always like with females, I felt like I was always there was like I was treading a line kind of,
mm, a
and
thin
getting
line.
bullied, trying to be accepted and all that kind of stuff.
So what
um
were some of the things you tried to do to be accepted, quote unquote?
With my family, I think for me, the one thing that still kind of irks me to this day is that I don't know Haitian Creole as well as my sisters do. Um, and it's something I think that's kind of like a still a barrier that I'm going through. But I tried to learn more as I got when I was in high school. I tried to learn more and talk to my sisters more in Creole so I could understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, Haitian Creole is I think for me it's more sacred than I thought it would be when I was going to college because it's like such a rich culture in Haiti that a lot of people are not like a lot of us are not born into that I'm
Mm-hmm.
appreciative of. So I think that was a barrier for sure. And also being an only child on my mom's side now,
Mm-hmm.
all of my cousins, yeah, all of my cousins have siblings. I'm the only one on my mom's side that doesn't.
And how
So
did they treat you? Did they treat you any differently?
I would say like the cousins that were older than me, I call them like my big brothers to this day because
Mm-hmm.
they also grew up with one or two grew up with me when I
Mm-hmm.
was a kid. And they were very protective of me when they were more like they came in and fit that sibling role, even
Okay.
though I wasn't around them like all the time. But because they were closer to me in age and
Mm-hmm.
had cousins that were older and younger than me, I
Mm-hmm.
I also have like a cousin right now that's like 2 years younger than me that I consider her like my baby sister. So
Okay.
that's kind of cool too. So they kind of fit that role. But because I also was an only child,
Mm-hmm.
they had siblings and I saw how they all interacted and I was like, oh well, I can't really do that. That was also another barrier that, I can't if at a family gathering they all take pictures with their siblings and I'm here like, it's me and my mom holding it
Yeah.
down. So it was also like I felt kind of like an outsider because I was raised predominantly or more in Cayman. Most of them
Mm-hmm.
were raised more in Jamaica. So that cultural experience as
Culture.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily I was able to spend like summers and holidays with them.
Okay.
There was still a detachment culturally, and because they had that upbringing and I didn't, I still kind of felt like an outsider um on that side, but I was more appreciative of the fact that they came in and they acted like more in that sibling role.
Right.
Um,
And they didn't make you feel like an outsider. It was more you feeling like an outsider, not anyone making you feel like that.
yeah.
So you had both parents, unlike your sisters, never had both parents. Did anyone touch on that? Did anyone make you feel like you were special or
Yeah.
not special?
My Ironically, on both sides of the family, I do have cousins I like my sisters that didn't grow up with their both parents in the home.
Mm-hmm.
So on both sides of the family, I always heard growing up like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You have both of your mommy and daddy all the time, and all that kind of stuff." And I never really felt I never really felt like as lucky because I mean, you guys have your siblings, but I have my parents. So I mean,
Trade
who
off.
yeah, you know what I mean? I have authoritative figures and you have people that's more on your level.
I
So I
know.
never really had the only people I had on my level at the time were my friends. But I
Right.
didn't get to see them like all the time every day, like how you guys saw your brothers and your sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So all the time I was told I was special. I never really understood it. I didn't know if it was like I know sometimes, people would make it like a joke, like, oh, you're the only one, haha. But like I didn't really see it as like, oh, I am the only one. At
Mm,
this point, like when it comes to a nuclear family sense. I didn't
right.
really understand that because I was always feeling like, well, I'm still as the only one, I'm by myself.
Yeah.
So it didn't really make me feel any better knowing
Mm,
that I was special, if that makes
mm-hmm. Yeah. So the isolation didn't go away. It was still there haunting you, right?
yeah.
Mm. So as you got older, you said you learned more to communicate with women. Can you just share a little bit on that and how did you get to that level?
I think it was when I went to college and I physically had to be away from my parents that I had to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to communicate effectively with my
Mm-hmm.
words,
Mm-hmm.
especially with my mom. Because, like I said, growing up, it's not like we didn't love each other. It was just like our communication wasn't as as best as it is now. I feel like right now I can sit down and call, like I can impulsively, which kind of comes from college, like, hey mom, can you send me $25? Thanks. But now, like, I call her during work, I'm like, I need to vent about this right now. Or she'll call me and be like, this is what happened. But we never used to do that in college, or sorry, not in high school or elementary school, because she was at work all day, I was at school, we come home, we decompress, we do what we have to do, we keep it moving, like on a
Right.
schedule kind of
Mhm.
thing. And then
Mhm.
also, like, for me, two things in college really helped me to communicate with women more. One, I never really had an all-female group of women till I got to college. Most
Okay.
of my when I was in high school, it would be a mixture of guys and girls. So it was
Mhm.
always like, and at a time when I was growing up as well, my one of my best friends, who was a guy, was in church, and so my best friend when I was growing up was a guy. When I
Mhm.
got to college, I was mostly friends with females, which really helped me with my
Okay.
communication, understanding black female stories and stuff. The second thing that really helped me was joining a sorority, which
Huh?
nobody in my family knew what a sorority was. I saw it in a movie, and then my friends in college were like, "You joined a sorority? That doesn't seem like anything like you." Because I was so used to doing my own individual thing because I
Right.
was the whole only child and everything. But it was something that pushed me out of my comfort zone to also understand, to be one, be be a part of a group of women with a common goal.
Okay, so describe that for those people who are still out there and don't understand it too much. And tell us how that affected you and that helped you overcome your insecurities.
So joining a Greek-led organization, there's a process of doing that in college.
Mhm.
There are different groups of them. I joined the one that was a historically Black affiliated group of um, uh, Greek organizations. So I did that in my sophomore year of college.
Yeah,
For me, it really helped me with my networking skills. It also helped me with communicating and collaborating with women.
mm.
It helped me to learn more about Black culture, but it
Mm.
also pushed me out of my comfort zone to use my voice more on different topics.
That's good.
That's where I built up my love for speaking out about mental health,
Mm.
speaking out about more inclusivity, especially when it comes to cultural backgrounds,
Right.
all those kind of things. So, sorry. So with that, joining that type of group, it really helped me to become closer to the women in my life, in a sense, because I was learning. I had to communicate with women. I didn't really, not like I said, not like I said I was forced to, but in order to get things done, in order to grow closer, in order to become like more one with each other, we had to communicate, we had to collaborate, kind of thing.
That's good. So you didn't experience any form of bullying when you became a part of this sorority, did you? As
No, I think it really helped me because showed me that no, I had people in my corner, people
that's
that
good.
challenged me,
Mm-hmm.
people that challenged me, gave me constructive criticism, always pushed for me to do the best that I could, were there to help me when I needed help and that kind of stuff. So growing up, I'm not saying I didn't have that, not saying that nobody would do that for me, but I
Right.
would, because I was so used to being by myself, I had to learn, okay, I had to do XYZ by myself unless I needed help.
Okay. That's
But then
good.
it's always in your face that there's somebody there for you, kind of thing.
Wow. That's nice. That's really nice, Tamara. So Tamara, you shared your journey through high school, you've shared your journey through college and elementary school as well. And now you touched on the the mixed family, the blended family, the feeling of isolation, the feeling of people thinking you're special because you're an only child, and they would know that, hey, I'm just a loner, technically, a loner who didn't know how to communicate with women, a loner who didn't even know how to communicate with her own mother. And it has really shown me, sitting on the side, that you have really come a long way. You have come into your own. You are now a strong woman from what I'm seeing, a woman who's going places, a woman who now knows how to communicate with other women. So I'm thankful for that. Is there anything, Tamara, that you would like to say to maybe young women who are like you? A lot of blended families are out there, and a lot of people are feeling isolated. A lot of people are being bullied in these families. Is there anything you would like to say to them to help them?
I think being in a blended family gives people an opportunity to learn more about themselves in a sense.
Mm,
Because at the end of the day, when you do become older, you have to learn to not fend for yourself, but to be more self-reliant. So
okay.
it's not all negative. But I will say, being in a blended family, don't be afraid to ask questions,
Mm,
especially if you're the youngest, because a lot of the times, if for me, a lot of the times, if I didn't ask, I wouldn't know.
mm,
Um, and then I wouldn't know the backstory of things. I wouldn't know trigger words. I wouldn't
mm,
know, there's always something. But if you were born last or you're only child, there's certain things that people try to not have you know until you're of age, which
mm,
I'm happy for that.
mm,
But growing up not knowing certain things about my sisters, I think it kind of pushed back the timeline of um where we could have been earlier, if that
mm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So never be afraid to ask questions. If somebody tells you it's not the right time, they're not doing it to hurt you. They're not doing it to tell you you're too immature to understand, but it's just not the right time to know um certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Being in a blended family is also a beautiful experience, to experience different cultures, to experience different ways of life, different types of way of people growing up. So I don't take that for granted at all.
That's
um,
good.
so I just want to tell people who are in mixed families, it might not look like the best, but it's something that through time, obviously, people before you went through certain things emotionally to get you where you are. It might feel kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
You might feel kind of lonely sometimes, but it's all an enemy, and they're doing it to protect you,
Mm-hmm.
not to harm you, even though it may seem like that.
Okay. Good. So you said you're still learning Papimento?
Oh, patois, Haitian Creole,
Yes.
and yeah.
So are you
So,
going to say anything for us?
well, I mean, most people know Sapase, which is WhatsApp, uh,
Okay.
and then Nabule is um nothing much or I'm okay, and
Okay.
then Sakafet is another way to say how are you in.
Ah,
So mostly for me, I'm learning how to understand it and then speak back in English. So I'm not the best with speaking it, but I'm learning how to listen to certain things and catch stuff. So sometimes my dad will say one, two phrases in Creole, then I'll guess it. Most times I'm right. And then I do have a sister, my eldest sister who helped raise me. She lives in France right now,
oh, nice.
so she mostly speaks French and Creole. So when she calls my dad and I, she deliberately speaks in French and Creole, so I have to speak back to her.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So I learn like that as well. So I'm getting there bit by bit. My goal is
Mhm.
at least by my 25th birthday to at least have a basic conversation.
Oh,
So
that's
I need
lovely. That's lovely. That's lovely. And by then you could say let's get loud in Haitian Creole, right?
definitely. I'll work on it.
You'll work on it. All right. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. If you're part of a blended family and you're feeling isolated, you're feeling like you are a loner if you're an only child, you're feeling like you cannot communicate with anyone or women, as in Tamara's case, you're feeling like there are certain words, trigger words, that you have to be mindful of. You're feeling like you're treading on eggshells, like Tamara felt. Know that, as Tamara said, ask questions. Try to find out what's happening, what went on before, how did we get here, and how can we move from here to get to the next level. Don't shut it out. Find a group, a support group like she did in college. people who got your back, to know that you are protected. Somebody got your back, because people are out there who will have your back. So find a support group and encourage yourself, and know that just as Tamara is sitting here sharing her story, that she's an overcomer, somebody who doesn't feel like an outsider anymore, somebody who doesn't have to tread on eggshells, somebody who now knows how to communicate with women, and somebody who got somebody's back. Know that you too can be in the seat, knowing that you have come a long way and that you have become an overcomer. So remember, whatever you're going through, whether it's being a part of the blended family, being isolated, feeling like you're threading on eggshells, know this. If Tamara overcame, you too can overcome. The Bible says we can overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And that's exactly what Tamara shared, her testimony. So until we meet again, where we'll hear how Tamara has come to the point where she sought help, professional help, to get to where she is right now. She'll share that story. But until that time, remember what we're doing. We're getting loud. So let's get loud. Remember, do the LCSS. Like,
Comment, share,
comment,
and subscribe.
all right, and share. Peace out.